In 1947, a coal miner from Barnsley lost his entire savings when the pit closed overnight. By 1954, he owned his house outright, owed nothing to any bank, and had fed his family of 5 through 7 years of rationing without a single week of debt. He did it using tricks his mother taught him during the hardest years Britain had ever seen. Then the banks noticed. Number 4 costs nothing to start this week and could cut hundreds of pounds off your annual bills. And the company now charging you for it has been dumping raw sewage into your rivers with the profit. And number 17 will make you genuinely angry. The financial industry spent decades and millions dismantling it, not because it failed, but because it worked too well and they couldn't make a penny from it. These 25 tricks kept ordinary families completely out of debt when the entire system was designed to keep them desperate. Hit subscribe. Let us count down. Number 25. Bread stretching. Your grandmother never threw away a crust, not one. A stale loaf in a rationing-era kitchen was not waste. It was 3 more meals. Bread and butter pudding made from ends and heels that had gone hard. Fried bread cooked in a half teaspoon of dripping for breakfast. Bread sauce thickened with an onion studded with cloves to stretch a roast that fed twice as many mouths as it was meant to. Breadcrumbs dried on the range and stored in a jar for coating fish, topping pies, or bulking out a meat rissola when the meat ration ran short. A 2021 study by the charity WRAP found that British households now throw away 20 million slices of bread every single day. 20 million slices. Your grandmother made bread last a full week and fed a family from what was left. She did not need a study to tell her that bread was food. She knew it in her hands. Every slice had a purpose. Number 24. Newspaper insulation. Today, a British family spends an average of £1,900 a year on gas and electricity to heat a home. Your grandfather spent nothing. He lined the inside of his walls with layers of old newspaper. He stuffed it under floorboards, behind skirting boards, into the cavities around window frames. He laid sheets of it beneath the carpet and between the joists in the loft. No contractor, no invoice, no standing order. A study by the Building Research Establishment confirmed that even a modest layer of compressed paper reduces heat loss through walls by up to 15%. Your grandfather could have told them that in 1943. He did it with yesterday's Daily Mirror and a pair of hands. Not a single penny. Number 23. Bone broth from every carcass. Your grandmother kept a stock pot on the back of the range from Monday to Saturday. Every bone went in. Every scrap of gristle, every vegetable peeling, every leftover that could not be served again. The pot simmered on the lowest heat and produced a rich, golden broth that became the base of every soup, every stew, every gravy for the rest of the week. One chicken carcass, which today goes straight into the bin, gave her 3 days of meals. She did it for 40 years. Her children had strong bones and good teeth. Nobody questioned it. Nobody inspected it. The broth cost nothing because the ingredients were already paid for. It worked. It always worked. Number 22. Home-rendered dripping. Every Sunday after the roast came out of the oven, your grandmother poured the fat from the tin through a piece of muslin into a basin. She let it set on the cold windowsill overnight. By Monday morning, she had a week's supply of cooking fat. Rich, flavored, free. She spread it on toast with a pinch of salt. She fried eggs in it. She used it to start every stew and every soup for 7 days. Nobody told her to do this. Her mother showed her, and her mother before that. The practice cost nothing. The replacement, a branded block of vegetable fat manufactured in a factory and sold in a box with a smiling face on it, cost money every single week. She never asked permission. Number 21. The Victory Garden. This one is not a single trick. It is the story of how an entire nation fed itself and then was told to stop. In 1939, the British government launched the Dig for Victory campaign and asked every family in the country to grow food. They dug up lawns, flower beds, railway embankments, the moat of the Tower of London. By 1943, there were over 1.4 million allotments in Britain, producing over 1 million tons of food. Families who had never touched soil were growing enough potatoes, cabbages, carrots, and runner beans to feed themselves through the winter without once visiting a shop. Then the war ended. The supermarkets arrived. Between 1950 and 2000, over half of Britain's allotments were sold to property developers. Councils rezoned the land for housing. Waiting lists for the plots that survived grew to over 10 years in some boroughs. A generation that had fed itself from a patch of earth the size of a tennis court was told to drive to a fluorescent building on a retail park and buy vegetables wrapped in plastic that had been flown in from Kenya. The allotment cost a family roughly £2 a year in seeds. A weekly shop at a supermarket now costs a family of 4 between £80 and £120. The industry that replaced your grandmother's garden is worth over £200 billion a year in Britain. The soil is still there. The seeds still grow. The knowledge your grandparents had is not extinct. It has simply been made inconvenient. Nobody profits when you grow your own food. That is precisely why you were encouraged to stop. Number 20. Vinegar as the medicine cabinet. The 2014 General Product Safety Regulations require cleaning products sold in Britain to carry specific safety data sheets, hazard labels, and comply with the classification, labeling, and packaging. Regulation. Your grandmother cleaned her entire house with a single bottle of malt vinegar that cost 4p. She diluted it with water and washed the windows. She soaked a cloth in it and wiped down the kitchen surfaces. She gargled with it when her throat was sore. She dabbed it on insect bites to stop the itch. She rinsed her hair in it to strip the soap residue. One bottle lasted a month and replaced a dozen branded products now lining the shelves of every supermarket, each one priced between £2 and £6. A 2015 study published in the journal Embio confirmed that acetic acid, the active compound in vinegar, kills Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Your grandmother did not know the Latin. She knew it worked. Number 19. The windowsill chemist. Your grandmother kept pots on every windowsill in the house, not for decoration, for medicine. Mint for stomach cramps, chamomile for sleeplessness, sage for a sore throat, thyme boiled in water for a chest cold, lavender dried and tucked under the pillow for a restless child. She grew her own remedies on a 6-inch ledge and never once paid for a prescription. Today, a box of branded herbal tea costs £3.50. A packet of sage seeds costs 79p and produces enough plants to last years. Your grandmother did the arithmetic without thinking about it. She simply grew what she needed. Her windowsill was a pharmacy that renewed itself every spring. Number 18. Bottling the surplus. Every August and September, your grandmother spent her evenings at the kitchen table with a pan of boiling water, a rack of Kilner jars, and whatever the garden had produced more of than the family could eat fresh. Plums, damsons, runner beans, beetroot, gooseberries, blackberries. She packed them into sterilized jars, sealed them, and stored them in the larder. By October, she had rows of jewel-colored jars that would feed her family through to April without a single trip to the greengrocer. The Women's Institute held preserving classes in village halls across the country. During the war, the WI produced over 5,300 tons of preserved fruit for the Ministry of Food. A Kilner jar cost a few shillings and lasted a lifetime. The knowledge cost nothing. It was passed hand to hand across a kitchen table. Use them. Number 17. The Christmas Club and the Savings Circle. This is how your grandparents saved money before the banks decided saving should cost you something. In every street, in every factory, in every village post office, there was a Christmas club. Your grandmother paid in £1 a week from January. By December, she had enough to buy the food, the presents, and the coal for winter without borrowing a single penny. No interest, no fees, no overdraft. The money was hers, held by a neighbor or a local shop, and returned in full when she needed it. Alongside the Christmas clubs were savings circles. Groups of women, usually 6 or 8, each put in a fixed amount every week. Each week, one member took the whole pot. By the end of the cycle, everyone had received the same amount they had paid in, but each had received a lump sum exactly when she needed it. No bank involved, no application form, no credit check. Then came hire purchase, then came store credit cards, then came overdraft fees, payday loans, and buy now pay later schemes, charging effective interest rates above 1,000%. The Financial Conduct Authority reported in 2023 that over 3.8 million adults in Britain are trapped in persistent credit card debt. Your grandmother's Christmas club charged no interest because there was no interest to charge. The money was real. It was saved. It was hers. The banking industry in Britain generates over £65 billion in annual revenue. A meaningful share of that comes from lending people money to buy things their grandparents saved for with a tin on the mantelpiece. The tin still works. Number 16. Home cobbling. Today, a pair of children's school shoes costs between £35 and £55 and lasts on average 1 school year. Your grandfather made his children's shoes last 3 years. He kept a cobbler's last in the cupboard under the stairs, a strip of leather, a handful of hobnails, and a pot of dubbin. When the sole wore through, he cut a new one from the leather, nailed it on, and waxed the whole boot until it was waterproof again. The children went to school in dry shoes. He went to work with money still in his pocket. She did it for her handbags. He did it for his work boots. Nobody called a professional for a worn heel. The skill took 20 minutes to learn and saved a household pounds every year. Number 15. Collecting rainwater. Under the Water Industry Act, 1991, all water supply and sewerage services in England and Wales are provided by private companies. Your grandmother collected it from the sky. She placed a barrel beneath the downpipe and caught every drop that ran off the roof. She used it to water the garden, to wash the step, to fill the copper for laundry. In parts of rural Wales and Scotland, families used filtered rainwater for drinking well into the 1960s. It cost nothing. It fell from the sky. Today, the average water bill in England is over £470 a year. The privatised water companies posted combined profits of over £2.8 billion in 2023, while discharging raw sewage into rivers on over 300,000 occasions. Your grandmother paid nothing for water. Nobody banned rain. Not yet. Number 14. Tallow candles and rush lights. Your great-grandmother dipped rushes in leftover mutton fat and lined them along the mantelpiece in a row. Each rush light burned for about 45 minutes. She made them by the dozen on a Sunday afternoon and lit the cottage through the dark months from October to March without buying a single candle from the chandler. In the Victorian cottages of Dorset and Somerset, families rendered tallow from every scrap of animal fat and poured it into molds made from tin cans. The energy was free. The material was a byproduct of cooking. The light was steady and warm. Today, the average household electricity bill is over £800 a year and rising. Your great-grandmother lit her home from the Sunday roast. He built it himself. Number 13. Home dairying. Your grandmother could make butter, cream cheese, and cottage cheese in her own kitchen with a pint of full cream milk and 10 minutes of work. Millions of British women did it every week until the mid-1960s. Then the Milk Marketing Board and a succession of hygiene regulations made it effectively impossible for a household to process its own dairy without commercial licensing. The Food Safety Act, 1990, and the subsequent food hygiene regulations classified any home production of dairy intended for sale as a commercial food operation, requiring registration, inspection, and compliance with environmental health standards designed for factories. Your grandmother was not running a factory. She was skimming cream off the top of a milk bottle and shaking it in a jar until it turned to butter. Britain's dairy industry is now worth over £8.7 billion a year. Butter retails at over £3.50 for 250 grams. Your grandmother made it for the cost of a pint of milk. The process takes a clean jar, cold cream, and a strong arm. The skill is not complicated. It was made to seem complicated so that a simple kitchen act could be turned into a product sold back to you at a profit. The jar still works. The cream still turns. Nobody repealed the laws of physics. Number 12. The hay box. Your grandmother started a stew on the range in the morning, brought it to a rolling boil, then lifted the pot off the heat and placed it inside a wooden box packed tight with hay, old blankets, or crumpled newspaper. She closed the lid. 8 hours later, the stew was cooked through, tender and still hot. She had used 10 minutes of fuel instead of 8 hours. The haybox was standard equipment in British kitchens during both wars. The Ministry of Food actively promoted it as a way to save coal and gas. A 2020 analysis by the Energy Saving Trust found that slow cooking methods using retained heat can reduce cooking energy consumption by up to 80%. Your grandmother saved fuel, saved money, and the food tasted better. She never needed a slow cooker with a digital timer and a price tag of £40. She needed hay and a box. Number 11. Banking the fire. Before bed, your grandfather did not let the fire go out. He raked the coals to the center, covered them with a thick layer of wet slack or fine ash, and closed down the damper. The fire smoldered all night on almost no fuel. In the morning, he opened the damper, pushed the ash aside, and the coals were still glowing. He added kindling and had a hot fire within minutes, without using a single match or a single extra piece of coal to restart from cold. He did this every night from October to April. He saved 100 weight of coal a month. That was real money in a household where coal cost more than food. It worked. Nobody taught it in a school. Everybody knew it. Number 10. Fermenting and pickling. Today, a small jar of sauerkraut costs £3.50 in a health food shop and is marketed as a superfood. Your grandmother made it in a bucket in the scullery with a head of cabbage and a tablespoon of salt. She packed it down, weighted it with a plate, and left it for 3 weeks. She did the same with onions, beetroot, red cabbage, and cucumbers. By November, she had a larder full of preserved vegetables that lasted through the winter and cost almost nothing to produce. A 2018 meta-analysis published in the journal Nutrients confirmed that lacto-fermented vegetables contain significantly higher concentrations of bioavailable vitamins and beneficial bacteria than their fresh equivalents. Your grandmother did not call it a probiotic. She called it pickled cabbage. She ate it with cold meat on a Tuesday. Her gut was healthier than yours. Number 9. The cold larder. Your grandmother had a room on the north side of the house with a stone slab, a mesh screen over the window, and no heating, the larder. It stayed between 3 and 8 degrees Celsius all winter without a single watt of electricity. She stored butter, milk, cheese, meat, dripping, eggs, and cooked leftovers in there, and nothing spoiled because the temperature was constant. The air circulated through the mesh, and the stone drew the heat out of anything placed on it. Today, the average British kitchen runs a fridge-freezer 24 hours a day at a cost of between £60 and £120 a year in electricity. Your grandmother's north-facing larder cost nothing to run. It ran on geography and stone. She knew where cold came from. Number 8. The penny remedies. This is the segment that explains why your grandmother's medicine cabinet cost less than your monthly coffee subscription. Before the National Health Service was founded in 1948, and long before the pharmaceutical industry consolidated into the giants it is today, British families treated the vast majority of common ailments at home: a mustard poultice on the chest for a cold, honey and lemon in hot water for a cough, dock leaves for nettle stings, bicarbonate of soda in warm water for indigestion, clove oil on a cotton bud pressed against an aching tooth, calamine lotion for skin irritation, kaolin poultice for a boil. Every one of these cost less than a penny in 1940s money. The British pharmaceutical industry is now worth over £41 billion. The over-the-counter medicines market alone, the remedies your grandmother replaced with a kitchen cupboard, exceeds £3.4 billion a year. A branded pack of indigestion tablets costs £4.50. A box of bicarbonate of soda costs 65 pence and does the same thing. The Medicines Act. 1968 and the subsequent regulations administered by the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency made it effectively illegal to market a traditional herbal remedy without a license costing thousands of pounds. The remedies did not stop working. They were simply priced out of existence by a regulatory framework designed for industrial-scale pharmaceuticals and applied retroactively to kitchen table medicine. Your grandmother's chest rub cost twopence. The branded equivalent costs £8.99. The active ingredient is the same. The difference is the margin. Number 7. Growing potatoes in any scrap of ground. In 1940, King George VI ordered the lawns of Buckingham Palace dug up and planted with potatoes and vegetables. Every public park, every roadside verge, every bombed-out lot in London was turned over to food production. Your grandfather did not wait for permission. He planted potatoes in an old tin bath in the backyard, in a cut-open sack filled with soil, in the strip of earth between the privy and the fence. Today, allotment regulations vary by council, but in many boroughs, a new structure on an allotment plot requires planning permission under the Town and Country Planning Act, 1990. Your grandfather grew enough potatoes in a single season to feed his family from September to March. 10 pounds of seed potatoes in the ground in April produced between 80 and 120 pounds of food by autumn. The arithmetic has not changed. The soil has not changed. The only thing that changed is that somebody built a supermarket between your family and the ground. Number 6. Draft-proofing with rags. Your grandmother cut old clothes into strips, rolled them tightly, and pushed them along every gap beneath every door in the house. She stuffed rags into the spaces around the window frames. She hung a heavy curtain across the front door and another at the foot of the stairs. No contractor, no expanding foam, no invoice. The Energy Saving Trust estimates that draft-proofing windows and doors can save a household up to £125 a year on heating bills. Your grandmother saved more than that and spent nothing. She used what she already had. The rags were free. The warmth was immediate. Number 5. Bartering surplus. Your grandmother grew more runner beans in July than her family could eat in a month. Her neighbor had a glut of eggs. They swapped. No money changed hands, no tax was levied, no receipt was issued. Every street had its own quiet economy of surplus. A jar of jam for a bag of apples, a dozen eggs for a cut of pork from the pig club, seeds exchanged over the back fence in March for a share of the harvest in September. This was not charity. It was an economy that ran on trust and abundance instead of scarcity and debt. Your grandmother's neighborhood fed itself sideways, household to household, without a single transaction passing through a shop, a bank, or a till. Her neighbors knew. Everybody gained. Number 4. Rainwater and the privatization of falling water. This one is not about a tap. It is about who owns what falls from the sky. Before 1989, water in England and Wales was supplied by publicly owned regional water authorities. Your grandparents paid rates, and water came out of the tap. In many rural areas, families used no mains water at all. They drank from wells, collected rain in cisterns, and washed in water drawn from streams that ran clean because nobody was pumping sewage into them. In 1989, the government privatized the water industry. 10 regional authorities were sold to private companies. Since privatization, these companies have paid out over £72 billion in dividends to shareholders. They have loaded themselves with over £60 billion of debt. They have discharged raw sewage into rivers and coastal waters over 300,000 times in a single year, according to data published by the Environment Agency in 2023. Your grandmother collected rainwater in a barrel and used it for everything except drinking. The water was free. The barrel cost a few shillings. The practice saved her water rates entirely in some rural parishes. Today, collecting rainwater is legal in England and Wales, but the infrastructure of self-sufficiency has been dismantled so thoroughly that most families do not even own a water butt. Meanwhile, the average annual water and sewerage bill exceeds £470, and the rivers your grandparents paddled in as children are biologically dead. The water still falls for free. The companies that charge you for it did not make the rain. They simply built a pipe between the sky and your tap and sent you a bill every month. Number 3. Preserving eggs in water glass. In spring, when the hens were laying heavily, your grandmother dissolved sodium silicate in water, poured it into a large stoneware crock, and lowered fresh eggs into the solution one by one. The water glass sealed the pores of the shell and prevented air from entering. Those eggs kept for up to 18 months without refrigeration. By the time February came and the hens had stopped laying, she still had eggs for baking, for scrambling, for feeding the children breakfast. A tin of water glass cost a few pence and preserved up to 100 eggs. Today, a dozen free-range eggs costs between £3 and £4 at the supermarket. Your grandmother's method cost less for 100 eggs than you now pay for 12. The knowledge is worth preserving. Number 2. Making soap from kitchen fat. Today, the average household spends over £150 a year on soap, shower gel, shampoo, hand wash, and cleaning products. Your grandmother made soap on the kitchen table from 2 ingredients. She combined rendered fat, saved from every roast and every frying pan, with lye made from wood, ash, and water. She stirred it in a pot, poured it into a mold, and left it to cure for 4 weeks. The result was a hard, white bar of soap that cleaned skin, clothes, dishes, and floors. During both wars, the Ministry of Food encouraged households to save every scrap of fat for soap production and for the glycerin needed in munitions. Your grandmother's thrift was a matter of national survival. The soap worked. It cost nothing. It was made from what would otherwise have been thrown away. Today, the same bar, rebranded with a French label and wrapped in tissue paper, cost £6 in a department store. She never bought what she could make. That was the trick. Number 1. The philosophy of enough. This is not a trick. This is the thing that every trick on this list has in common. The single principle that your grandmother's entire household ran on, and that the modern economy cannot survive if you rediscover it. Your grandmother knew what enough looked like. She knew how much bread a family needed for a week, and she baked that amount. She knew how many potatoes to plant in April to last until March. She knew how much coal to bank in the fire to keep the house warm overnight without wasting a single lump. She knew how many eggs to preserve in the autumn to carry through the winter. She knew how many jars of plum jam to bottle to last until the next harvest. She did not guess. She did not overshoot. She did not waste. She knew the number because her mother had taught her and her grandmother before that. Everything on this list, every trick from 25 down to 2, is an expression of that one idea. Enough. Not more. Not surplus for the sake of it. Not growth. Not upselling. Not buy one get one free. Enough food. Enough warmth. Enough water. Enough medicine. Enough light. Enough soap. Enough for the family. Nothing wasted. Nothing owed. The modern economy is built on the opposite principle. It is built on the idea that you never have enough, that you need more, newer, faster, branded, delivered, upgraded, replaced, that last year's version is not sufficient, that your grandmother's remedy is not safe, that your grandfather's method is not compliant, that the food you grow is not inspected, that the water from the sky is not treated, that the soap you make is not tested. Not enough. Never enough. Buy more. Your grandmother came out of rationing knowing that a family could live well on very little, owe nothing, waste nothing, and need nothing from any bank, any corporation, or any government department. She had proved it. She had 14 years of proof. The children were healthy. The house was warm. The table was full. The debt was zero. That knowledge terrified every industry that depends on your dependence. And so they made sure you forgot it, not by banning it, not by burning the recipe books, simply by making the alternative so convenient, so cheap, so bright, and so easy that the old way looked like poverty instead of what it actually was. Freedom. Your grandmother was not poor. She was uncontrollable. She needed nothing that she could not make, grow, find, preserve, or mend with her own hands. And in an economy built on monthly payments, that made her dangerous. The recipes are still in the drawer. The skills are still in the soil. The only question is whether you remember how to use them. Pick one. Just one. Start this week. Put a water butt under the downpipe before the next rain. Buy a bag of seed potatoes and a sack of compost and grow something in a bucket. Save the fat from your next Sunday roast and learn how to render dripping. Find your grandmother's recipe book. It is in a box somewhere. It is in a drawer, in an attic, in a cupboard nobody has opened since she died. Tell me in the comments which one you are trying first. Tell me if your grandmother had a cold larder, a Christmas club, a stock pot on the back of the range. Tell me what she made that you wish you could still make. Somebody in your family knew every trick on this list, every single one. That knowledge did not disappear. It was not destroyed. It just went quiet for a while, drowned out by the beeping of tills and the pinging of payment notifications. But it is still there, written in the margins of ration books and penciled on the backs of envelopes in handwriting you recognize. It is time to start listening again.